Welcome back to yet another video. By looking at the thumbnail, you must have already guessed the video content. So, whether are you ready to ace your next interview, that is Java interview, whether you are a seasoned developer, whether you are a seasoned pro, or you just get started for preparing the Java interviews, it can be very tough, but I'm here to give you an edge over the others and also a step by step process how you can regain that particular process. In today's video, we will cover the expert tips, the tricks, and the strategies to help you nail each and every core Java concepts, right from the fundamental to the advanced concepts like concurrency, system design, and many more. So stick around because I will share you exactly how to stand out to the recruiters and confidently handle those tricky challenges and the interview process, right? So let's get started. So people who are watching this particular video, I would suggest you all to please subscribe to my channel and also hit the bell icon so that you are getting this particular videos whenever the new video is uploaded. I encourage you to watch the video till the end without skipping because I have tried to explain each and everything in details. So without wasting the time, let's get started. So if you are preparing for a Java interview, it I know this is one of the daunting tasks, right? But if you have the right strategy, right, and you can definitely ace that particular interview. So preparing is the key, right? That's the reason I am trying to make a video on preparing yourself so that you at a mental peace you are able to crack that particular interview. So Java is one of the most popular programming language. If you have already been working, a lot of millions of developers are using it, right? So it is likely that you if you go through this particular video and come up with this particular strategies, you can ace your interview and you can be well prepared, right? So I am going to discuss all the Java related interview questions, whether you are a beginner, whether you are an expertise, or whether you are at the senior level, whatever their role is, right? So I'm trying to cover up everything with respect to Java, whatever the questions are, what kind of questions or the category you can expect, right? So I'm going to give you a comprehensive guide with some expert tips, tricks, and also help you thoroughly increase your chances for the interview to be cracked up. Okay, so which will not only impress your interviewer but it also give you a confidence. Now firstly, when you are going up with Java, any language, so it is not only Java, right? Whether you are going for any language first time, right, you have to first understand the fundamentals of it, right? So that's the same is the case with the Java as well, right? So right now, like we have to cover up, let's say first thing is that the syntax are most important, right? Whatever the class is, whatever the interface is, so whatever language you have chosen, so now for this instance Java we are talking about, right? So we have to be very very comfortable with all this particular basic syntax, like what are the variables, operator, loops, for loops, control statements, data types, right? This plays a very important role because this will give you an edge of starting off early, right? And we doesn't need to memorize these things because these are all the core concepts and the basic things. uh, Java is an object-oriented language, so you must be already knowing, right, the core principles of OOPS, right? So we have to be quite clear and also be very, very clear about the OOPS concept. So interviewer might be trying to trick you when he's trying to ask you different concepts of inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction. So he may trick you, and also this some people ignore because they think that these are the two basics questions, and they don't give importance to this. But of course, like if you go to any level of interview, right, whether it's the mid level, whether it is the expertise or whether the juniors, right, these basics are tested, and you can look out for any interviews, right? The basics are definitely tested at some point. So you have to go with and check that. Then comes data types and the collection. So basically you have to be familiar with the primitive types, right, and the reference types. So you must be already knowing Java is not fully object and oriented because of this particular primitive types, right? So you have to work on the collections. So there are different list, set, map, queue, and their own implementation as well. So you make familiar with those particular thing implementation. This will, lot of questions are coming around it, right? You check it, like, if you have attended interviews previously, right, you must have come across like these are the concepts or the basics things which we definitely should have been prepared right before attending any interviews. Okay. Memory management, now this is quite important when it comes to working right with the memory, because this is going to be including your heap memory, stack memory, or like the way the garbage collection is there done in that part. So how your objects are stored in, right, how much frequency, what kind of algorithms are used for memory management. So this is quite important, I would say. So be prepared on that part, like, what is a G1 garbage collector, what are the changes done after Java 8, right? What are the, in terms of collections, in terms of memory management, in terms of garbage collector, right? Everything. Yeah, so this will give you an edge over the other people, right? So if you have that particular knowledge, right, so there are far better chances that, interviewer will, even though if you have missed to answer some questions, right, he will definitely consider it. Core libraries, I would say, and APIs. So these are the important packages and libraries. I would suggest that, you should, everybody should know about it, right? Because these are the core APIs, which based on that we are going to develop our applications, our systems, or our APIs, right? So these are the base of it. So don't forget to, get to into deep into this, like, what are the packages normally we use, what are the default packages, what are the, packages when we try to import. So whenever you're trying to, let's say you're using any idea, whether you're trying to develop something as a code, right, the moment you don't have that particular class loaded, right, so you should be able to, try to figure out, like, these are the imports has needed, or the classes needed, or the libraries needed. Okay. So make sure you are understanding, like, a deep 10, like, Java lang is there, util is there, iterator, concurrency package has been added, Java ion and io, right? So these are all, with respect to serialization, io files, right, with respect to the backend application we make use of. Date and time API, which were there part of the one of the important topic when it comes to Java 8 as a feature, right? So make sure you make use of that. Collections, it is a, I would say, a ocean kind of thing, like, there can be a, I would say, thousands of questions which can be derived from the collection. So never underestimate the power of collections, right? Because this is something which, uh, I mean, no matter how much you are prepared, right, there might be one question which is going to ask on the collection, and that can decide, like, you know that collections or not, right? So that also is quite, I would say, important. Moving on to the Java advanced concepts. Now, basically, once you are comfortable with the basics, right, the next step is to move on to the advanced topics, right, and test your skills, right? So what happens is that, after, so satisfying with the basics, we would definitely move on to the advanced topics, right? Like exception handling, what is, how the exceptions are handled in Java, right? What is the difference between checked exception, unchecked exception, how to handle exception using the try catch block, finally creating your own exception, driving resources, many more, right? That's what. And then we have the concurrency and the multi-threading API, which, the as a concept we should be aware of, because they are both, when you're developing the concurrent application, these concepts are heavily used, and this will determine that, your Java skills. So you need to manage your, threads, your synchronization process. So it justifies that, you are aware of it if you are knowing this particular concurrency and multi-threading, because this is an in general concept, not only with respect to Java, at the broader level, any language, right? So you should be well aware of it, right? So what is the thread cycles, life cycles, what is the difference between the thread and the runnable, like, after Java 5, what are the changes, concurrency packages been introduced, we have executor framework, we have some logs, right? There are different, things has been introduced, so you should be well aware with this particular concept, because you never know, interviewer is not going to ask sequentially one topic, like, single topic 10 questions, right? He may he touch base all this particular topic one by one, and then from all the different topics, the one important questions he will ask, right? So you have to nail that particular interview question. Now we have Java 8 features, which is quite important. I would say this is one of the important. You cannot afford to miss this particular features to be expertise, right? So you have to be at the level of the expertise, because the moment he asks, you should be on the tip of the finger to answer this, right? We have default methods, we have stream API, we have optional lambda expression, and etc. Now if you go to the advanced concept, then there comes a design patterns. Now I cannot emphasize the importance of design patterns, because whether you are a fresher, whether you are an expertise, or whether in a pro level, right? Design pattern plays a very important role, because this will give you an instance, or a sense, like how much principles you follow, and what is your problem solving skills, what are the design patterns you have used and solved the problem, right? So you have to ensure that your design patterns, the behavioral, the creational, the structural, right? So you have to ensure that everything is you are aware of it, right? So whether it is factory, whether it is observer, or any other design patterns, so make sure you are prepared with it, with the examples, because normally what happens is that interview is going to ask you, let's say he will give you some scenario, okay, said I am facing this particular problem, then he will ask you that what kind of design pattern should I use it, right? So by being aware of this particular design pattern, on which particular problem we can assign this particular thing, we will be able to answer that, right? And we should be able to apply that thing. The Java 17 is after Java 8 and 11, the major things are Java 17, then there is a Java 21 has been introduced, Java 23 has come up now, and then it is go on, right? So make sure not only right from the starting, right, the versions, uh, the versions which have been introduced in the latest, you should understand, what are the records, what are the string new implementations, helper things, right? Sealed classes, etc. A lot of features has been introduced, so make sure you are aware of those things. Advanced concept also includes JVM internals. Now, if you look at the internals, how Java runs under the JVM, right? So it will definitely give you an edge, because not many people are going to know about what is happening inside the as a background, right? Because we are just concerned about running our IR application, because they are going to get the environment. But basically, how the system get loaded, what is happening at the background, what is the garbage collection happening, and everything, the internal things, like what exactly the algorithms are used, okay, what are the different types of collectors, right? If you have this particular information, definitely I would say out of 100, 99% of chances are there that you will be definitely be selected. Because if you go with wrong with some other questions also, but you have some knowledge which is critically not been known to many people, right? So this gives you an impression on that part. So just in time compliance, right? So these are all things which are you should be well prepared and well aware, right? At least if you are not going to the deep, you should touch base it. Data structure and algorithm. Now this I cannot say that you should be well prepared, you should be aware of this, because this is not only be helpful with the interview theoretical process. Let's say you are attending any hacker rank, or let's say lead code, or any problem solving coding questions, right? The very first things, like if you see, if you go to the interview process, it starts from the coding round, then to the first L1, L2, and L3 round, and then ultimately you are getting selected, right? So this most of the people are shortlisted there itself. If the coding round is not clear, the rest of the preparation will not be of help, right? So that's what the problem is, that right. You should be well aware of this particular DSA algorithms and other things, right? So that should be your main priority. So don't ignore this, I would say. So uh, check out those particular arrays, strings, linked list concepts, stack and overflow, how it is implemented, what are the usage, trees, graphic, binary trees, right? No, you make use of that hashing, what is a hashing things, and actually how you can solve those sorting and searching algorithms, basically quick sort, merge sort, bubble sort, how you have to deal with those, how you to use the binary search and how to implement the iterative, these all things, okay. So also visit the coding platforms like problem solving coding platforms like Lead Code, Hacker Ranks, Code Signal. There are many of other things, right? I have not mentioned it here, but there are many of them. You can watch other videos which are related to problem solving. You can also attend some mock things, right? That will help you. Now, database knowledge is important whether you are structured or non-structured. That is NoSQL, but database application knowledge is quite important because ultimately, like most of the 70 to 80% of the information is stored in the database, right? So you have to ensure that you are well aware of the concepts, like right from the initial days where there was no Hibernate, Spring Data, JPA, the JDBC concepts, because this will give you an understanding, like where from where we have come along, right? Because if you know the basics, because at the very first thing what we have discussed is basics, right? So database, when it comes to Java, the basics are JDBI, right? JDBC, right? From there it has grown up to Hibernate, Spring Data, JPA, and all things, right? So you have to be well aware of that parts, like how do you establish connection, how to connect to the two databases, how to execute queries, joins or stored procedures, handling clusters, triggers, etc. All those things. As we already discussed, we need to know aware of the Hibernate and the abstract implementation. Like Hibernate is one of the implementation of the JPA, right? So there are IBTs and other things as well. But yeah, you need to be aware of it, right? And you have to be crisp, clear in writing those SQL queries. Nowadays, we have no SQL where you deal that particular thing in a document based or MongoDB, Cassandra. So these are all different NoSQL type of databases where you may not need the SQL proficiency, but yeah, definitely if your database preference is SQL, then you should be aware of the SQL. Testing and the debugging, now this is important part to the developer, because this after you develop the code, right? So basically it is going to be crucial for testing the component, what have you written and what have you done, because ultimately you cannot afford to have certain bugs to be introduced when your new code goes in, right? So you should make use of the frameworks to test, right, and test the test cases, right? There are some certain coverages, code coverages, which you need to satisfy among certain organization, right? Let's say 80% coverage should be done, 90% coverage of the code whatever you written should be tested, and like whether if you are using JUnit as a framework, you can make use of that. Mockito is one of the framework where we can test the component in a quite isolation way. Test driven I would say development, this is one of the way where you try to test before you write the actual code. There are some behavioral testing, there are it helps you understand those things. So it's quite important part, never underestimated, because I would say 70 to say 80% people do ask this particular question, and also they stress more about it basically. Design pad, system design and architecture. Now if you are a junior level, senior level, like you likely are going to face this kind of interview question, because many interviewers, the interviewer who is going to take it, right, these are the people who are architects, who are like project manager, who are the team lead, right? So they have come, they have gained a lot of experience, and they wanted to hire those people who are coming from in the same line, and then they're well aware of this particular concepts, right? So you have to be well prepared of this particular system design and architecture process. So and like if you have been part of in a certain big organization, big team, where you're developing large applications, right? So where you have to break that particular application into the microservices to in order to deal with the performance, scalability, reliability issues, right? So you have to be well aware of this particular concepts, like in chunk by chunk you should be aware of all this, so that when you are asked for a certain certain questions, right, you should be well aware of to inform them or answer them. So REST API, microservices, any cloud platform, right, you should be well aware of that. Microservices, definitely, like some design patterns. I mean, before going to that, like any platform, I would say you should be well aware of preparing yourself with the AWS, Azure, and how do you deploy your microservices in that particular platform, right? You get trained on that particular, because ultimately microservices are being developed and deployed on the in premises or the cloud platform, so you should be well aware of that part. Mock interviews and the practices, you have to practice, like the you must already be knowing, right? Practice makes you perfect. So try to attend the mock interviews, try to be prepared, so that you try to attend the mock interviews as if like you are attending, and take it the seriously, like you are attending the real interview, not just to the sake of just viewing it, right? Because ultimately at a certain point you will be definitely sitting in the interviewer place, right? Or the interview, right? So ultimately there will be a number of interviews you will be giving for your next dream company, right? So go through those particular things, and then try to prepare yourself, like prepare the common interview questions which we have already discussed, right? That should be your aim to closely get prepared, because practice will make perfect. Now, apart from the Java skills or the related things, whatever we discussed, right? So we need to have another skills, which is one of them is like soft skill and the behavioral interview process. So basically, it depends a lot. Like there I've seen many people who are not even, like I would say, uh, they focus more on the technical stuff and other stuff, but uh, there are many interviews who not only look at the technical thing, they are going to look at your overall aspect, right? Like how is your behavior, how is your approach, how is your problem solving skill, how is your leadership skill, how is your mentorship skill, all these things actually, like how you collaborate your team. So that's a questions which they technically try to understand, like if they are asking certain things, actually they ask for a purpose, right? Whether how many teams are working, what is your role over there, are you working as a client facing role or not. So in order to just to understand your with you have already worked, whatever you're trying to showcase, that gives them the confidence. Ultimately, finally, I would like to say that practice on the coding paper, like you prepare your interviews in the not only just id, go to the websites and try to see, watch some videos, right? You try to make some projects, whether try to modernize your application. Let's say you have earlier developed that particular application in a legacy code, right? Try to develop that from the spring boot legacy, react, and the latest technologies. Basically try to modernize that, try to break the large system into a small system. You have to be very calm at that particular interview. So basically after doing that, no matter how much you are prepared, right? You have to be behavior at the when you're trying to interview. So you should make yourself calm before the interview, right? Don't try to be in hurry to answer everything, or trying to give a long answer, right? So just be crisp, clear, and know them, like whether you are aware of the concept or not aware. Straightly, simply tell them, because interview like the people who are honest, right? They're not trying to just bluff this, right? So there are certain different ways to impress the people. So I would say just follow this particular tips, and definitely you'll land a job, and then you'll definitely progress in your career, right? So I hope this video was helpful to you, and will this video will make you more confident, and also your make you aware of what all things can be asked in it. If this video was helpful, please share it with the needy people, and also don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Thank you for watching.